Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very special, thrown together, last minute Wednesday Night Live from Courtroom Confidential, the fastest growing true crime news channel on YouTube. This one's going to be quick and dirty because as you can see, I'm in a hotel room. I'm in Boise. I'm doing this as I can fit it in, because as soon as I'm done with you guys, I'm throwing on a suit and heading back to the Fox satellite studio to do some more reporting for this evening. It's been a very busy day, very emotional day, very long day. But I wanted to make sure, we promised you guys that we would come on here and do a live and just catch you up to some of it. So I wanted to make sure to do that. If you guys are new here, my name is Joshua Ritter. I'm a former prosecutor in Los Angeles. Now I'm a criminal defense attorney. This is, of course, Courtroom Confidential, where we try to present to you both sides of the courtroom. All right. I'm going to forego all of our normal kind of announcements and highlights. I hope you like this video. I hope you share it with somebody. I hope you're subscribing. But I want to jump right in because I don't have as much time with you as I normally do, and I'm under a little bit of a time crunch. But thank you, everybody, for being here. I see Misdemeanor OG says, thank you for working so hard to honor the victims. Well, that's very nice of you to say. Chihuahua Mama says, thank you for thinking of us, Josh. Absolutely. And of course. Okay, so today was obviously the sentencing hearing for Bryan Kohberger, the man who is now a convicted murderer 4 times over for the murders of, let's go ahead and show their pictures, Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, who lost their lives close to 3 years ago, November, in an incredibly brutal way that has now captured the attention of the entire nation. Even the president was commenting on it earlier this week and even today. And today was the time for sentencing. And, you know, I think we all expected it to be emotional, but I don't know if we expected it to be quite as emotional as it was. It really did have some shocking moments. So I just wanted to kind of talk to you about how the day played out for me, share with you some of the things that I thought were highlights. I'll take your guys' questions where I can. And maybe you guys can share with me some of the stuff that stood out to you. But I would tell you, my morning started very, very early here. I can't even remember, but I believe I was up at 3 o'clock this morning. I was in the car, I think, by 3 o'clock this morning to start doing news hits. But you got to realize it's all East Coast time. So when I'm up at 3, it's already, 5 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast. And that's why we're doing all this stuff so early. Because it is one of these cases that really has national attention. People have been following this. A lot of people are very heavily opinionated about this case and how it ended up in particular. A lot of people have the frustrations that you all do, that I share, about how this case ended up. They can't really wrap their heads around why it ended up the way that it did. I will tell you that even here locally, it had a lot of attention. There were people lining up last night. There were people lining up at 8 p.m. last night. In fact, I received a text message from Joel from Surviving the Survivor. He sent me a video at 10 p.m. and the line was already about 30 people deep, and he was going to stand in line to try to get in. Many of the people I was with had lined up at 4 in the morning and were not able to get into the actual courtroom. They were in the overflow room. So a lot of local interest, but then interest that spread way beyond the courthouse as well. The atmosphere was one of, I think, there was obviously people were kind of, I don't want to call it excitement, but there was a lot of anticipation in the air, but there was also a lot of seriousness. I think everyone was kind of bracing themselves for how it was going to play out, because we knew we were going to hear a lot of heartfelt pain and emotion from people. And it absolutely was exactly that. Many people spoke. The only family members who did not have people present was the Chapin family. And they had purposefully already decided that this was not something that they wanted to personally show up for. And I've said this before. These people are allowed to grieve however they want to handle this. If they wanted to be vocal and against it and do every movie or every television interview they could possibly do. God bless. Have at it. If that's the way that they need to handle this and grieve. And if they don't want to be a part of it and they want to remove themselves and they don't want to be at the sentencing and they don't want to ever do another interview again, God bless. I can't imagine the nightmare that these people are going through. And if, however, they want to grieve, I give them that space to do that. And the point of today, obviously, the plea was already arranged. The sentence was already arranged. I heard a lot of people talking about, could the judge change it? Could the judge change it? The very technical answer is yes, this is something the judge still had to approve and order himself. But the judge was never going to change this. This was preordained. He was going to get what is called in Idaho fixed life, meaning that's what we would call life without parole in many other jurisdictions. It is life, and we mean life. It's fixed at life. Other jurisdictions, Illinois, for instance, has the same thing. They call it truth in sentencing. When you get life, you're getting life. When you get life in a state like California, that can mean, well, it's actually 25 years to life, or it's life with an eligibility for parole. And we distinguish it by saying life without parole. So he's getting life without parole, what I would call it in the jurisdiction where I practice. And everybody knew that was going to happen. So what's the point of these victim impact statements? Are they to affect sentencing? No. They're for the families. They're for them to have an opportunity to be heard, for them to have that, whatever that is. If you want to call it catharsis, if you want to call it a moment of letting the world know who their loved one was beyond just the name that we've heard about listed along with many others. Or if they wanted to have a moment to actually speak to this man face to face, stare him in the eyes with a captive audience and tell them exactly what they think of him. That was their opportunity today too. And we saw all of that. It started out with many people spoke. And so please don't interpret me not mentioning someone as though they were not important. These were just some of the highlights that stood out to me in the time that I have to speak to you. But the first, it started out the morning with the surviving roommates, and Dylan Mortensen, who was actually one of the roommates who lived there, spoke. Very emotional, had a very difficult time getting through it. She was very brave, and spent a lot of time talking about the pain that she's going through, how it has affected her life. She is a victim as well. I mean, we many times may qualify some of the people who I spoke as victims' families. They're all victims. They're victims of this, and including Dylan. She was in that house, and her life is forever changed, and not just by the loss of her friends who she loved, but by just her everyday experience. I mean, she talks about how she just doesn't sleep right. She can't be alone. She's never going to feel safe again. I'm no psychologist, but you want to call it PTSD. That's exactly what this is. She's gone through a traumatic event and will never really learn to cope with that effectively. It will just be a manner of dealing with each day. And I think that was the overriding theme to me about today was strength. These people have strength beyond anything I will really ever comprehend. The fact that they have gone through this experience, that they have lost these loved ones, that they have lost daughters and sisters and friends and brothers and sons, and that they managed to get up every morning is a miracle to me. And that they managed to put one foot in front of the other is a miracle to me. And that they had the strength to come into this court today and speak from the heart in front of knowing the world is watching just showed strength beyond belief to me. And some of them took that opportunity to just talk about how it affected them and their loss and how they're feeling about it. And others decided to direct their comments towards Bryan Kohberger. Dylan was a person who was very kind of introspective with the way that she handled it and talking about her loss and losing her friend and the pain that she's going through. But it was very powerful. And you could tell that part of it was this guilt, survivor's guilt that she's dealing with, and knowing how she's been attacked completely unfairly by people criticizing whether or not they called the police and why they reacted the way they did. And she tried to, I think in her way, explain some of that, of what was going through their mind that morning. And it was what we all thought. We never believe the nightmare is happening. No one suspects the nightmare is happening. It makes me think, we've all seen these horrible images of the tsunami that took place many years ago in the South Pacific. And you see all these people on the beach as the waters are receding. And it's a horrible sign. It's warning signs of something coming. But there are so many people that are fascinated by it and curious by it because no one is thinking the nightmare is coming, that this is a disaster about to happen. And I think that's what was going through their heads. No one was thinking that perhaps this could have been all of their friends were being slaughtered. They were just thinking to themselves, maybe they don't feel well. Maybe they're not answering their phone. And I think they hoped that beyond hope until the next morning when they woke up to the absolute nightmare that they woke up to. Another person who really stood out to me was Madison's grandmother, Kim Cheeley. Boy, I'm sitting there with cameras in front of me and lights on me, and they've got us mic'd up and everything else. And we're watching this through little monitors. So I didn't have that immersive experience that some people did, but I'm watching this and I had a real tough time not choking up. I mean, I had to take a mental break myself when she was talking about this beautiful little girl, her granddaughter, who couldn't pronounce, I think the way that she said the story went is she couldn't pronounce bananas. So she would say bedeedles. God, this is difficult. And so then she began to associate Nana, when Nana was coming to visit her. Oh, that meant Deedles to her. And she began to call her grandmother Deedles. And that became her nickname for her. And a nickname that she carried, this grandmother, through her whole life. And she shared this story when it was so touching. And it was such a beautiful moment to take this time and take the spotlight completely off of the monster in the room and focus it squarely on these beautiful young people who lost their lives. And she talked about how she wears even a necklace to this day that carries the name Deedles and Maddie on it to remember her. Really touching to me. And then the kind of one of the most anticipated moments was going to be the Gonzalez family. And Steve Gonzalez got up and you knew it was game on because he immediately turned the lectern. He turned the podium. That's a beautiful picture right there to get an idea of how this squared off in court. Many people had the lectern turned towards the judge. He grabbed it and turned it squarely in the face of Bryan Kohberger, and he stared that man in his eyes. And I'll get to Bryan Kohberger and his demeanor through the whole thing. But Steve Gonzalez, it was a powerful moment, and he spoke right to him. And what I noticed most about his comments was how many times he said the words, you did this, and you are this, and you are a monster, and you are whatever else he called him. But he was talking to that man, not about that man, not in reference to that man, not in the third person. He was talking to him. That was a conversation, a one-way conversation he was having directly with Bryan Kohberger. And it was, again, I'm watching this from kind of a degree removed, but it was palpable, the power of that moment. But I think the person who probably you're going to see the most media cuts of throughout the day was Kaylee's sister, Olivia Gonzalez. Wow. Talk about strength. Talk about stealing a moment, the power from a person. And she did a couple of things that were remarkable. She again spoke directly to him. She was demeaning of him and dismissive of him. She talked about him being a coward and sad, and he has no meaning in his life, and this will not grant him meaning. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. One thing she did is she started asking him questions about how did you pick these targets? What were you thinking about? What was your planning? And I didn't realize until later, those were the questions from his questionnaire. If you remember, he was a criminology student, and he had sent out this questionnaire to other murderers, and she decided to flip the script literally on him and read him those questions. And another thing she did that was a clever kind of callback was she called him, she said, "You are a psychopath, you are a sociopath, and you're a murderer." And if you'll remember, those were the three words that his attorneys tried to have kept out of trial, that they didn't want him referred to as in court. And she took that moment to say, "I'm going to absolutely call you that to your face." And then she said something along the lines of, "Sit up when I'm talking to you." It was just powerful all around. I mean, even we were applauding her. We were, just cheering her on through that whole thing. And when she was done, the people in the audience there did applaud her. It was a remarkable moment, and again, different from other people's moments. Other people, like I pointed out, that Kim Chile had a very personal moment, and it was a moment where you heard some people laugh, and you heard some people smile and think fondly about Maddie's memory. Olivia had a different moment, and that's her way of grieving, and that's how she wanted to have to capture this moment, and that was by stealing his power. And again, I don't know, no one knows what's going through this man's head, but in my mind, and I don't know if I was imagining it, I felt like he shrank. I felt like in that moment, he became a little bit smaller. And I guess it's a good time to kind of talk about him. I have been through many sentencing hearings, through monstrous people who've done awful, awful things. And many times they sit there stone-faced. And many times they don't comment and don't interact. But what I've seen nearly all of them do is stare straight ahead or stare down at the table. But what this monster, sociopath, psychopath, murderer chose to do is stare straight back at these people. And that was the part that was just so shocking to me. He was expressionless, emotionless, motionless, and staring straight at them while they gave these comments, while they said these powerful words to him. Unblinking, almost unmoved. It was strange to watch, because here we all are having a difficult time keeping our emotions together, and he was just unfazed by anything that was said to him. I'm trying to think of one moment where I ever heard him or saw him react. I think someone said that at one point, I forget who it was that was speaking. I think it was one of the fathers, referencing his own family, I think at one point, which was another powerful moment. And that he either nodded or appeared to perhaps have like a micro grimace on his face or something like that. But other than that, it was like talking to a person who had cotton in their ears. They're it added to, I think, the mystery of what a diabolical monster he is, that he could sit there unmoved. Even when the judge addressed him, the only words he said were, I respectfully decline. Just that's the kind of stuff that's going to blow my mind for years to come when I think about this case. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about the prosecutor's comments. Bill Thompson got up. Bill Thompson, wow, thank you so much, Allie B from Tennessee. I really appreciate that. She says, "I am so proud of each and every person who gave a victim impact statement. The verse that comes to mind is Romans 5:3-5. He is truly a psychopath, sociopath, and a demon. I pray the families can start healing now. Rest in peace, sweet angels, in the name of our Heavenly Father." Amen. Amen, Allie. And thank you again. That's incredibly generous. Thank you. Bill Thompson, I know he's getting a lot of heat. He's getting a lot of flack. I will say this, and I talked to some people about this, and they seem to agree. I think he's very torn, and I think he's very conflicted, and I think he understands how people are reacting to all of this. And I've never heard a prosecutor, and I've been a prosecutor, give these kind of comments during a sentencing where they explained so much of how they came about and arriving at that decision. And I think part of him felt it was important for the public to know because the public is curious and outraged. I think he wanted the families to know. I think he wanted it to be known that the families did not agree with this. Some of them, at least, that it was not an across-the-board agreement. Some of the families do agree with it and are supportive of the plea deal. But I think he wanted that to be heard. It did seem, I don't want to use the word inappropriate, but it seemed awkward the way it fit into the day. I kind of wish that he had made his comments before they all had, because it did seem to change the tone of things. But again, I'm trying not to be overly critical of him because I do feel that this man, this case weighs on him heavily. He had a very difficult time getting through some of his statements, and he took a moment where he showed the picture of each of them as he said, you know, what he will be pleading to and what he is responsible for. You know, say what you will about how this ended up. And with this man, he's got a very, very difficult job. He had to make a very, very difficult decision. And I do not think that he's walking away with this without a lot of baggage himself. He'll be carrying this with him for a very long time. And then the judge's comments, I thought, were very insightful, and I really appreciated the judge. I felt the judge seemed very emotional today, too. I saw him wiping at his nose, and I wasn't quite sure if that was tears. There he is, or what. Again, I'm watching on a tiny monitor. I didn't have the benefit of actually being in the courtroom, but I felt like he was caught in the emotion. It's hard not to be. I'm sorry. I don't care how long you've been doing this. I've been doing this my entire career, and I've seen some horrible, horrible stuff. Some stuff that'll make you make your head spin. And this is towards absolute the fringe of horrible stuff I've dealt with. You cannot be a robot. It's going to affect you. And this judge, I think, was affected by it as well. But the thing that stuck with me the most, he talked about he's a monster. He talked about he's not going to let him take power, how he's not going to let him have a moment that his 15 minutes is over. That theme kind of rang throughout the day. A lot of people wanted him to know he's not entering himself into some sort of sick and demented hall of fame here. And the judge talked about how we don't have a comment from him and we don't know why. And that I've heard a lot of people say that's unacceptable. He should have had to explain why. He should have had to tell us. He should have had to stand up there and explain himself. And the judge makes an excellent point. Are we going to believe it? Are we going to believe a word that comes from this man's? Do you think that this man who's caused all this pain is now going to all of a sudden have a soft spot to want to give some comfort to the families by actually giving them a straight answer as to why? It's an excellent point. If we were able to force Bryan Kohberger at gunpoint to give us an answer to those questions, I don't think we could trust any of that. And even if he did give us an answer, it's not going to be comforting. It's not going to make anyone feel better. It's not going to make any of those family members walk away from there feeling like they've gained something. I thought that was an excellent point made by the judge. But let's get to, if we do have some questions, Kaylin, you're going to have to put them up for me because I can barely read the words on my tiny little monitor I'm looking at here. But Jay Mofo says, Josh, thank you so much for your compassionate and thoughtful coverage of this case. You've done an amazing job. That's very sweet of you. That's very kind of you. Arizona Gal 89, thank you so much, says Olivia Gonzalez is a strong, powerful woman who speaks with unwavering strength, resilience, and grace. Thank you, Olivia. Your coverage is deeply inspiring. I admire it. Oh, well, thank you very much, Arizona Gal. I was really touched by today. I'm having a hard time. I'll be honest with you. It was a hard day. Johnny Knoxville says that survivors should honor their friends by going and making the most of their lives, achieving great things. That's what the girls/Ethan would want. I couldn't agree more. And that was a theme that was struck throughout today as well, is that people kept on saying, this is not the end. You do not capture this moment. You do not win this moment. This moment is about closing a chapter on you for forever and putting that book away to forever forget about and moving on, remembering these beautiful people, the lives they would have lived, and honoring them by living incredible lives. So a very good point, Johnny Knoxville. Jay Mofo says Kaylee would have kicked your ass. Yeah, that was another comment I missed. She said, Olivia said that had she been awake, she would have absolutely kicked. Well, she used stronger language than that, but she said she effing would have kicked your ass, I think is how it went down. Good for her. Good for her all around. Arizona Gal says Aubrey Gonzalez, Kaylee's youngest sister. Oh yeah, this was another one. This was one that had gasps going all around. You may have received A's in high school and college, but you're going to be getting big D's in prison. I mean, as crass as that is, there was not a person in that courtroom who didn't appreciate that at that moment. All right, let me just get to the press conference really quickly, and here's some highlights. And then you guys got to forgive me because I got to get going here in about, I don't know, maybe I got another 10 minutes in me. So first of all, they talked almost the entire press conference was about the stuff we've been talking about. Why? Tell us the things we don't know. Answer the questions we were hoping to have answered. You could tell that the media pool was a little desperate, and not desperate, but frustrated. And that the investigators and prosecutors answering those questions were like, we get it. Here's what they don't know. We don't know why the house was chosen. They don't know. And here's the thing though, and maybe something to make us all feel a little bit better. The trial would not have answered it. So it's not like taking away the trial is taking away the answers to these questions. The trial would not have answered these things. They don't know. They don't know why the house was chosen. They don't know. They don't know his motive. They've never had a clear motive. In fact, they said there is no connection to the victims, which was, I had to ask the person sitting next to me if I heard that right. All of this, the Instagram, the restaurant, all of these things that we've kind of desperately tried to figure out what was the connection. They said they never found anything that panned out enough, certainly for them to feel like they could prove in court. The prosecutor was asked why they didn't require him to speak. They said kind of the same thing the judge said, that they don't believe that they could have believed a word that he said. They don't believe that anything that would have come out of his mouth would have done anything but further victimize the victims. Take that however you want, for whatever worth you want to give to that. They looked for a knife in clothing, but never found it. They just don't have it. They don't have it, and they're not going to find it. And I know where all of you are. I can already hear your voices through the internet. The guy who knows is sitting there, and he hasn't been asked. I mean, it's one thing to ask him why. It's another thing to ask him why that house, why these girls, who was the target, where is the knife. There are some things that he could have been asked that he wasn't ever. Like I said, they never found a link between him. They never found a motive. We have never, to this date, found a single connection between him and any of the 4 victims or the 2 surviving roommates. That was a statement made by them, by the investigators. Lieutenant Darren Gilbertson said that. They talked a little bit about how the motive, they were trying to kind of, I think, explain to people motive's not a required element, why motive, the whole thing didn't hinge upon understanding motive. And they again reiterated how, and the vegan restaurant, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here. They were asked about a connection between Maddie's vegan restaurant and him. And this was Bill Gardner from the Idaho State Police said, we wanted that. We looked for it. And every possible way, digitally, financially, physical location, anything we could think of, anything we thought, where is the connection? Where's the overlap? And we searched tirelessly and never found it. That's were his thoughts on it. And then they finally reiterated that the best outcome, they believe, was this outcome. I'll again say this outcome, realizing you're not going to get those answers, realizing that it's not going to end up with anything satisfactory, the idea that he's going to prison for the rest of his life without parole and without appeal is a good resolution. Now, it being a good resolution doesn't necessarily mean it's the most satisfactory resolution. Doesn't mean there's one thing, I guess, to say there might be a bit of a disconnect between our internal compass on right and wrong and what the law and prosecutors consider to be justice. Prosecutors and the law consider this to be the right thing, and justice has been served. We, though, with beating hearts inside of our chest, may feel differently about that. All right. Let me see if we've got more questions. I got a couple more minutes here, and then I want to give you guys just a couple of parting announcements and comments. And I do want to say thank you. Please forgive me that this is kind of thrown together. You know, we really try to do the production value as well as we can here and be as prepared as we can. And I literally just got back to my hotel room, ripped off my suit, sat down to do this. I'm going to throw on another suit and go back, but I didn't want to leave you guys hanging. Jay Mofo says, Josh, can a defendant be medicated before the sentencing hearing? He looked a little out of it. Well, he could be medicated if he takes prescriptions. And if he's been, seen the doctors inside of jail and they prescribed him something, he can have those medications. It's less important for sentencing than it is for him to be, a full sound and body during taking the plea, because he doesn't really have to participate in this part of it. But I think what you're interpreting, Jay Mofo, as being out of it is just him. This is a pure, again, I say psychopath, I say sociopath. I'm no psychologist. I don't know what those terms mean. What I mean is a person disconnected from the reality that you and I all walk amongst every day. This person is not in the same universe as us. This person is wired different, thinks different, operates different, and therefore reacts different to situations like this. I don't know how anybody sat the way he did, especially the accused, the center of all the focus, without having even, like I said, the smallest of reaction on his face. He didn't, a lot of times you see these guys kind of shake their head or kind of disagree with something or do a ho-hum or look down or even cry. I've seen people cry in court. I've seen them react. I've seen them say, I'm so sorry. Anything that might indicate humanness behind those cold eyes. None of it here. It just blows my mind and still will continue to blow my mind. All right. Let me do some really, really quick announcements for you guys. I did want to let you know just really quickly, tomorrow is going to be the Brian Walsh hearing. We want to make sure that you guys see that on Courtroom Confidential Live Trials. We've got the weekly roundup, as always, coming up Saturday. Sunday, going to be another Sunday Fun Day. I will be back home. We're doing Sunday Fun Day. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of questions regarding this. I'm happy to answer all of them. And then Monday, we're having Kevin Fixler back because he was so busy this week, but I wanted to make sure to get him back in because I know you all love hearing from him. He was inside the courtroom. He can give us his take on all of this that we just discussed tonight. So we'll have Kevin Fixler on next Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Other than that, I want to give a very special happy birthday to Rainy Day. Thank you so much for being a dedicated member. And Rob says that he loves you very, very much. So thank you, Rainy Day. And thank you, Rob. Other than that, you guys all know where to go. Go to thecourtroomconfidential.com if you want membership, if you want to leave a message, if you want to learn what color shirt I'm wearing, all of the good stuff that we normally do and normally have time for. Go to thecourtroomconfidential.com. Thank you so much to our mods, Afton and Sonia and Kathy. You guys are all fantastic. And thank you for hopping on here so early. Oh, there I go. I'm already getting my email that I better start heading downstairs. So thank you guys again. You're all fantastic. I will be catching you up with much more details on all of this in the days to come. But I didn't want to leave you hanging tonight. And so thank you so much for showing up, everybody. And I will be talking to you all very, very soon. Take care, everybody.